And the best guidance was al-hadith, Adi Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the best guidance is the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the worst of all matters are newly innovated things in the religion, just like we were told last week about innovation, that every innovation leads to misguidance, and every misguidance is in the hellfire. Pray Almighty Allah save us from that. Then he will now quote some verses of the Quran, one of which is Surah Al-Imran, verse 122, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. That all you believe, fear Allah as you ought to be feared, and you should not die except in a state of Islam, except being a true Muslim, a complete Muslim. One of our sisters will say that she doesn't like to be Yoruba in the sense of Yoruba. When you say somebody is Yoruba, that she would rather be a Muslim. But when you say somebody is Yoruba, as in his cultural Yoruba, that's what I mean by that. That person cannot have a complete Islam. Because when you want to do certain things, what you give preference to is what his culture has said he should do. So also, you cannot be a good Muslim if you are a cultural Hausa person. And possibly we might give an example of what we are talking about here. So we need to accept to enter into Islam completely, like this verse is telling us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also told us in Surah An-Nisa, the first verse of Surah An-Nisa, that yeah, you are not. Oh, you mankind. Allah is addressing the entirety of mankind, not just Muslim, not Christian, not Jews, but everybody. As long as you are a human being, Allah is addressing you. That yeah, you are not. Oh, you mankind. Taqu rabbakum. Fear your Lord. Alladhi khalaqakum min nafsin wahida. The one that has created you from a single soul. And that soul is Adam. You know, Adam was the first person that Allah created. Wa khalaqa minha zawjaha. And he brought forth from Adam his wife. Wa batha minhuma rijalan kathiran wa nisaa. And then Allah spread all over the world, men and women, from these two single souls, two single persons. وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ الَّذِي تَسَاءَلُونَ بِهِ وَالْأَرْحَامَ. Fear your Lord, through whom you request for your rights. When you have a conflict with somebody is denying you your right, you say, because of Allah, I beg you, give me back my right. I beg you in the name of Allah, give me something. So you ask from people through Allah, using Allah to beg them. So Allah is telling us that Taqu rabbakum, wattaqullah alladhi tasaaluna bihi wal arham. And also you should also consider that all of us are from the same womb. That is our mother Hawa. Inna Allah kana Alaikum raqiba. Allah is ever watchful over all that we do. Then the Prophet ﷺ will complete with a verse from Surah Al-Ahzab, verse 70 to 71, where Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu taqullaha wa qulu qawlan sabakum wa man yuti'i Allaha wa rasulahu faqad faza fawzan azima. So Allah is saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, oh you who believe, taqullaha, fear Allah. You see that taqullah is being repeated in all these verses we have quoted. So it means that fear of Allah will help us a lot in this our journey of life. But when you are in this world, there are a lot of things that you are going to be faced with. It means that fear of Allah, when you have the right consciousness of Allah, it will help you to be able to navigate all the difficulties, all the challenges you are going to face in your journey as a Muslim, in your journey as a human being in this office of the earth, so that you can come out successful. So that taqullah is being repeated everywhere. So Allah said, not only that you should fear Allah, you should also qulu qawlan sadida. You should say words that are straightforward. Don't try to lie and be turning up and down. When you are being asked about things, go straight to the point and say what is right. Allah said, if you do that, yuslih lakum a'malakum. We are going to rectify your deed. Wa yaghfir lakum dhunubakum. We are going to forgive you your sins. وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ فَازَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. whoever obeys Allah and His Messenger is going to achieve the best success. So now let's go to our topic. But before we go ahead, I'm sorry, I'm not projecting anything. My laptop got bad recently, just after I prepared the topic. So I had to just make do with this tablets to prepare something so that I can make the presentation. So I'm sorry for that. So let's go to the topic. So the topic is cultural practices versus religious obligation. So I've given a lowdown of what we are going to be talking about here. That we're going to be defining the key topics, the key words in this our discussion. And the first thing we are going to define is culture. What is culture? When you say culture, what does it mean? So here it refers to ideas, customs, and social behavior of a particular people or society. When we are talking about culture, we are looking at ideas, things that you have on that you think about. You know, when you meet somebody who is raised in a particular environment, there are certain things that when he talk about, he will say. There are certain things that some other people who are raised in other environments, when you talk about it, they say, what are you talking about? And example of this is always seen when you go to a different culture. Maybe you travel to a place that they are not used to the kind of thing you do. So when you talk about certain things, they may not understand what you are talking about. For example, if you go to, let's say, Angola, for example, and there are people there who learn English, and you go there as a Nigerian, and you are talking about, let's say, for example, Kabu Kabu, for example, or even in Nigeria, if you talk about Kabu Kabu, in some area, maybe in the far north, they may not understand what you are talking about. But for somebody who has lived in Lagos all his life, he knows what Kabu Kabu means. I hope you get what I'm talking about. So when you talk about culture, we are talking about ideas, things that you think about, things that you know, things that you do. It also talk about your custom, the way you dress, the way you eat, the way you do your wedding, the way you do a culture. I hope you are following me. So that definition is from Oxford Languages, a dictionary of words. So that is one definition of culture. Then cultural practices refer to things that you do to exhibit that culture that you have. The way you now conduct your naming ceremony, the way you conduct your wedding, the way you dress, you are expressing that culture. So that's why we are able to see somebody dress and say, this man must be from South. The way he dress. Without even talking to the person, you assume that this person is from this place. Because they are the one that express their culture in a particular way. So that is cultural practices. So what it means now is that there are thousands, if not millions, of culture. That's what it means. It means all over the world, there are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of culture, because we have different group of people. Like in Nigeria, they say we have more than 300 languages or tribes. So what it means is that those 300 people, if you should do a study on each and every one of them, you will see some differences in the way they do their things. Maybe the way they speak, because now they have different languages. There are some words in one tribe that other tribe may not understand, because they are not from the same group of people. So that means we are going to have all that. Before we go ahead, we need to understand that in Islam, there are places where we pick, when you talk of Maqasid Sharia, that is the things that help us when we are trying to make law in Islam. We consider the Quran, we consider Hadith, and several other things. And one of the things that is considered in Islamic jurisprudence, when they are discussing about Islamic law, is culture, the norm of a group of people. And I'll give an example. For example, now when you talk of traveling, what some scholars have said is that, because the question will always be that, okay, what is the distance that I need to cover before I can do qasri, for example? And somebody will say it's 70 kilometers. Some people will say it's 50 kilometers. Some people will say it's 100 kilometers. Some people will say it's 1,000 kilometers, something like that. But what is most clear, or what is clearest, is that what a particular people consider as travel is what we should use as justification for travel. And some of the scholars will give an example that, for example, if you are in Mecca and somebody has moved from Mecca to Jeddah, for example, will you consider that as travel? So the question to ask is that the people in Mecca, when somebody is going to Jeddah, do you say the person is traveling or is going to Jeddah? And they will tell you that for such travel, you just say that person is just going to Jeddah, for example. But I remember when we were in Port Harcourt that time, some of our colleagues that we were working in Rumwasi will tell you that they are traveling home for December. And when you ask them where are they going to, they are going to a greeter that is just like 25 kilometers. But in their own culture, in their norm, that is travel for them. I hope we understand. So in Islam, we also consider culture or norm as a means to define certain things. So that is an example. Another example is when you talk of the Prophet ﷺ have said that a man should not imitate the dressing of a woman. So also a woman should not imitate the dressing of a man. However, if you use your understanding of culture in Yoruba land, and you now get to Saudi Arabia, for example, or you go to Malaysia, or you go to Scotland, and you see men tying wrapper or wearing skirts, as it happened, or even in Korea here, like a Yoruba man that I'm from Lagos, I now came here, and I see Korean people, or even people from the other tribe around south, tying wrapper. You start saying, no, these people are dressing like women. But it's wrong, because in their own culture, that tying of wrapper is their normal way of dressing as a man. So there's nothing wrong they are doing. They have not done anything wrong. I hope that is clear. So it means that Islam has not said there's nothing like culture. No. What is important is to understand the place of culture in Islam and then put the culture in that proper place. So that's what this discussion is about. It's not about saying, oh, once you're a Muslim, there's nothing that concerns you with your culture, forget all that. No. I hope I'm making a good point. Then when you talk about religious obligation is what you are obligated to do as a Muslim. Meaning that as a Muslim, what does Islam expect of you to do? That's just the simple definition. Forget all these things that I have on what I have on my slide there. So what it means is that whatever Islam has said you should do, that is the religious obligation, and those are the things that is expected of you as a Muslim to do. Not doing those things mean that you are falling short of your claim to being a Muslim, and that's why Allah said, just like we're told in the discussion. You see, I'm just referring back to what we were told last week. Unfortunately, for those people that were back and listening to the lecture, so that we can have a full understanding of the discussion, because it's a series we are building on the lecture of last week for the lecture of today. So hopefully maybe the other lecture that will be coming up will also build on what the little I will say here today. So it means that as a Muslim, those obligations are very important for you to do them, and the topmost of this obligation is the Tawhid in Allah. Because in Islam, Umar narrated the hadith from the Prophet that Bunya al-Islam ala khams, that Islam is built on 5, meaning 5 pillars. Just like this house, this masjid is built on maybe 20 pillars. So you can imagine if one of these pillars, somebody just come, maybe while we are away during the week, and remove this pillar, remove the second pillar there. I'm sure most of us will not want to sit, we may not even want to sit inside this mosque, because we'll be worried about the structural integrity of this masjid. We'll be worried about this masjid being fit for use. You'll be afraid that this building can collapse on you because you have removed some of the pillar that is keeping it standing. So the same way, as a Muslims, the 5 pillars were there, and they are very, very important. They are the most important thing for a Muslim. And the most important of them is La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the topmost of them. And it is the one that if you missed it, no matter what you do, Islam, that person does not have Islam. If you don't have that first one, there's echo. So if that first one is not there, then every other ones that you may do, you are just wasting your time. So that one, that Tawheed is the biggest, is the highest or the best pillar that you should work on. So what it means is that there are some cultural practices that can affect that particular thing that we are talking about here. Without trying to jump the gun, some people do things in the name of culture that take them out of Islam. And I will give an example. In my own place where I come from, they will tell you that, how do they say it now again? That, like saying culture does not spoil the religion. But what they are calling culture in that sense is things like, we have people who are from families where they carry the masquerade. If I can use that word. They are the one that is the family that actually are involved in the masquerade thing. So they will still believe that even though they are Muslim, there's still nothing wrong in them still continue that culture, because that is their own culture. They have to do it. They have to continue to do it. And that's why it's unfortunate that when anywhere where you have issue between Muslims and those idol worshippers, or those people that are fighting Muslim, those cultural people, you see that all those people, they still have Muslim name. On Friday, you'll be surprised that you still see them coming to mosque to pray. But they still believe that culture does not spoil, Islam does not spoil culture. It doesn't affect culture in any way. But that is already affecting your Tawhid. Because when in the process of doing that your culture, you kill people in the name of sacrifice. You carry things to go and keep in front of an idol in the name of sacrifice. Then you already left Islam. So this is the best or the highest obligation that a Muslim has. Then the other obligations, salat, fasting, zakat, hajj, if you have the means, all these are also part of the main obligation that a Muslim has. The other obligations that a Muslim has is that he must follow the Prophet ﷺ in whatever he's doing. It's an obligation on you. So you have to make sure that you don't give preference to your culture. That, no, this is the way I want. We do our own wedding. So forget about all this what you are talking about. In our own culture, if you are doing our wedding, these are things that we have to do. And some of those things might be going beyond the bound of Islam. And an example could be that we say in our own culture, when we are doing wedding, we have to do introduction. And part of the introduction is that people will now come with certain objects of household items and say, as this thing is this, so your life will also be the same thing. They will be engaged in a lot of other things that are not Islamically right. In the name of, that is our own culture. That's the way we do our own things. So we have to look at culture in that sense. That is it making you to go against your Islamic obligation, your religious obligation as a Muslim? So that is what we need to look at. So that is the definition of religious obligation. Things that Islam require of you as a Muslim to do. You must not fall short of them. So that's what religious obligation have. Now let's go to, so I have a map here. So this map is just to, I'll try to explain it. It's just like a sketch to show a man. So just imagine that you have in the center, me, yourself at the center. Then at the top, we now have Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then on your right hand side, you have Islam. That is your religion. Then on the left hand side, you have your family. Then at the bottom, you have the society. So what I'm trying to point out with this picture of mine is that as a man, all these things are pulling us. You are being pulled by Allah, meaning that Allah is asking you do this. This is your Islamic obligation as a Muslim. You have to do it. So Allah is dragging you up there. So that's what that picture is showing us. Then on your right hand side, you have your religion. There are some things that Islam demands from you that you need to do as a Muslim. That's also dragging you. Then you now have at the bottom of that picture, you have the society. Things that society says you should do. You should behave in a certain way. You can only relate with people in a certain way based on your own understanding of religion, of your culture. And I'll give a little example, even though people will think that that's not culture, but it's actually culture. As a person from a particular tribe, the tendency is that most of us will tend to believe that my tribe, even though we are the worst set of people, that we are the best. And that's why you see that even today, Muslims will not want to give their children to somebody from another tribe because of some things they have in their head. You know, when I was defining culture, I said culture is also ideas, things that is in your head. So it means that if you still believe that I can never give my child to marry somebody from a particular tribe, then your culture is conflicting with your religion. Because Islam has taught us that, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min zakari wa unsa wa ja'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu. So Allah said, He has created you male and female, tribe and nations. Why? Lita'arafu. So that you can know yourself. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. The best among you are those ones that fear Allah most. So what that is telling us is that even the fact that you have those prejudices, those mind that, no, this one I can't relate to this kind of person, or I'm better than this kind of person. And you don't need to say it out to show that you are better than that person. By your behavior, by the way you do things, you are showing that you are better than that person. So that one is very, very important that we need to walk away from it. So in this my map, we have the society under. So then on the left-hand side, we now have your family. There are certain things your family will demand from you. There are certain things that some people say, I cannot do it because I'm from this kind of family. I cannot be seen relating with this kind of person. In our own family, when we are getting married, this must be done. If you don't do it, you have done nothing. In our own house, when somebody dies, we have to do 7 days, we have to do 40 days, we have to do final burial. It is we have to do it. If you don't do it, then we are going against the culture. So that is family. So the family is on the left. And now, what I'm trying to say with this map is that as a human being, you are being dragged by all these 4 things. If you believe that Allah is at the top, it means whatever Allah asks you to do should be the most important thing for you, irrespective of what the other 2 guys are trying to make you to do. Whether it's your family, it's your society, Allah should be uppermost for you. Then, putting the religion by your right-hand side means that the religion will guide you to be able to do what Allah demands from you. So those religious obligations, all those things that they've been telling us, different lecturers have been coming to talk to us about over and over, that's the religion on your right hand side. And it should guide you in whatever you are doing. It should help you to navigate the world. It should help you to be able to move between what is right to what is wrong. Sorry, to move away from what is wrong to what is right. Sorry for that. Then, I've placed the family on the left. The family is also important, but the family should be number 3 in the scheme of things. Your family should not be number 1, replacing Allah as number 1. Replacing Allah as being the one at the top. You should not give preference to your family things, ideas. Then I've placed the society at the bottom, meaning that the society should not make us go against Allah or our religion or even our family member. We should give preference. We should give the least preference to society. Don't be so moved by what society demands from you. It should not be what should be uppermost in making decisions. Your decision should not be driven by society. What will people say? How can I do wedding that it just looks so dry? I can't do that kind of wedding because you want people to say good thing about your wedding. So that is what my map is saying. I'm sorry I couldn't project it, but that, in summary, will guide us to be able to navigate the cultural practices that we know are harmful to us. And next, I talk about beneficial and harmful culture. In a way, we have already talked about beneficial culture. We've talked about harmful one. Beneficial culture because the way Islam look at culture is that anything that has not gone against your religion, then there's nothing wrong in it. For example, I gave an example of people from different cultures dressing in a certain way. As long as that clothing is not going against what Islam has specified, there's nothing wrong in that kind of dressing. You can, and we know what dressing is not allowed in Islam. So as long as that has not happened, you can dress using your cultural means. I give an example of a man tying wrapper. There's nothing wrong with that because Islam has said you should not tie wrapper. But something that should be wrong in that is if your wrapper now is now going, as a man, is now going below your ankle. And we know that your religious obligation is that your clothes should not go below your ankle as a man. Then your culture is now conflicting with Islam. So you should drop that particular one. But we didn't say you should not dress in the way your culture says you should dress. Or if the kind of cap I wear culturally is the one that there are pictures of human being or animal or anything on that kind of clothes or cap or whatever, then I need to step down on that. But if such is not there, nothing is wrong in dressing in that particular way. So such kind of culture, there's nothing wrong in that. Even the way you do your wedding ceremony. If your wedding ceremony encourages simple wedding, encourages that before you get married to a lady, you need to go and see the family. The husband people need to come and see the family of the wife, of the bride. There's nothing wrong in that kind of culture. But if your culture says that you don't need to marry, if you see a woman on the road, you can have anything to do with her, have children. It's only when you want to bury that lady, if the woman died and you want to bury her, that's when you have to go and do the marriage rites. Then that kind of culture, we need to look at it in another angle, with another eye. So that is the kind of culture that we will not say is allowed in Islam. Those kind of culture are harmful. Or if your culture demands that if somebody should die, The way you bury the person is that you just dig a well, throw the person there, and cover it back and cover the ground. Or you burn the person, you cremate the person. We say that kind of culture is harmful. We don't accept that kind of culture. As long as that is not there, that culture, if there is no conflict between Islam and that culture, there's no problem with that. I hope the point about that is clear. So that is about harmful and beneficial culture. Now, let's look at some examples of culture that can be harmful, that Islam or goes against religious practices. And there are a lot of them around us, within us. While I was talking, I mentioned that as Muslims, even though we claim that we are Muslim, but the kind of ideas we still have in our head can make us to have conflict with religious obligations. And I give an example of somebody having that prejudice that how can maybe somebody from me that I'm from Ijebu go and marry somebody from Abeokuta? It's an abomination. Why would I want to marry somebody like that? Even though the two of you are Muslim, and there's nothing wrong in that person's religion. So that kind of idea is wrong. It goes against the spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood in Islam. So that kind of culture, we need to drop it. And you know, when we are defined, that's why we said we started from definition of culture. That culture is ideas, the kind of thing you have in your mind. Some people today, even as we live, as we talk now, when they have problem, the next thing you hear from their mouth is that my mother not sleep, or may the head of my mother not sleep. Like saying that as if your mother is the one that is taking care of you. So what that is telling us is that you believe that some other person, what they told us last time, that if you believe that some other person can do what Allah is doing, it's not only innovation you're doing. In that case, you're even doing shirk, because you believe that a dead person can help you against Allah or help you in something that Allah has decided otherwise. So that is also a very wrong idea. And a lot of us too, a lot of Muslims, I'm not saying us now here, a lot of Muslims also believe in things like, even though they are Muslim, they still believe that if they want to pray, they should pray to the Prophet ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ can help them to intercede in front of Allah, to help them in the problem they have. So that is also a wrong. We have taken that culture from our religion, from our local religion, and imposed into the Islam. Maybe we are even borrowing it from Christianity. It's now part of. So some Muslims believe in those kind of things, and they see nothing wrong in that kind of thinking. So as a Muslim, we need to take that away from our way we do our things. And one that is also very, very important is the way we bury our dead Muslim. A lot of some of these things that we talk about, you want to assume that we will not still see it among Muslims, but it's still happening. I was happy yesterday when I saw one video on BBC that was talking about a town in Kwara State. That in that town, they don't do burial ceremony that is common among Yoruba Muslims. For 7 days, 40 days, final burial. In fact, they made a law that if anybody should do it, they are going to fine the person. They are going to sanction the person. It's not allowed. And the Imam of the mosque, they interviewed him. He said, because this is against what our Islam has practiced, as stipulated. It's against our religious obligation. So, but Muslims still do it today. We still take pride in doing it. We still post it that, please, I'm inviting you for the 7th burial ceremony of my father that died. 40 days prayer. All these are cultural things that we borrow from our culture and now superimpose into religion. And we will now try to Islamize it. Let me use that word. To now make it look as if it's part of Islam. It's not part of Islam. It's not part of Islam. It's what we copy from our culture and superimpose into religion. Because we don't want to leave our culture behind. So that's why we decided, okay, since you are Muslim now, okay, let's do it in Islamic way. There's nothing like that in Islam. So that is one other thing that we have copy and paste. That's what we did there. We just copy it and paste it into Islam and give it another name. We call it Fidaus. When you study Arabic language, you will not see Fidao in Arabic language. I don't know where it came from. Maybe Ustaz Abdulgani will give us where it came from so that we can learn more. For me, I don't know about it. So we now give it name so that it looks as if it's Islamic practice we are doing. But it's still part of our culture that we have imposed into Islam. And it's a conflict. So you now see conflict between people that said there's nothing like that and people that say they must do it because we have to do it. That's how we've been doing it. These are our fathers have been doing it. We have to do it. So that is one big example of conflict between our culture, because it's not Islam, it's our culture, and religious obligation. Our religious obligation is that when somebody died, what are we expected to do? As Muslims, we support the family. In fact, it's even the person that died that is supposed to carry the burial expenses for himself. In fact, they said before you even say you want to distribute the estate of the person that died, you take away the burial expenses. What was used to bury the person? And what do you need to bury a Muslim? It's not much. What you need to bury the Muslim is the clothes that you are going to use to robe him, maybe perfume. What else again? Maybe cost of transporting the body to the burial ground. And that's all. Nothing more, nothing less. So in fact, it's the dead person that's supposed to carry the cost of his own burial. And it's as simple as that. That's all that is required from a person who has died. In fact, when one of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ died, and people were going to pay visits to the family, what the Prophet ﷺ told them, he said, when you are going, make provision for the family of the person who has died, because they are preoccupied with the death of this person. But what do we see nowadays? People will go there. From the first day, people start eating in the food house of the dead person. On the third day, they will come again. On the seventh day, they will come again. 40 days, they will come again. Making life difficult for a person who has died. For people, somebody that are bereaved. In fact, and that's what I always still ask people, that question, that we say somebody died. By the third day, we already got uniform, actually, for people to go and to do burial for that person that died. Someone that died 3 days ago. Already you have sewn clothes. And you are wearing it. And you are saying the person, you are not happy. I still cannot wrap my head around it. Now somebody has died for you. You are crying that the person has died. But you carry clothes, you wear it, you cook food, serve people food. And you continue to do that 3rd day, 7 days, 40 days. And you say you are mourning. What kind of mourning is that one? I'm still struggling to understand it. Maybe some other person that understands it can explain to me how you can reconcile. In fact, I was discussing with one of my friends yesterday. And he tried to justify that maybe because the person has lived to old age. So they are celebrating the life, not the death. That's what he said. But I said, for me, I'm still struggling. Because the same person was crying just yesterday that this man died. But today now, you are cooking food, you are laughing, you are taking pictures. So it's not reconcilable for me. Maybe other people may understand it. So that is a big one. And most of what is driving some of these things is because of culture. People believe that we just have to do it. How would it look like that the old Baba Adini of the town died and we just bury him like a pauper? That's how they will say it. Just like when my dad died. They said, how can you just bury Alaji like that? You will not even take his dead body, go and dump him somewhere. Somebody that has house, that has road. Maybe or no, it's not that sense. But that is what Islam has asked us to do for somebody who has died. And it requires from you, as the person has left behind, to always pray for your dad, to do sadaqah, expecting that the reward will get to that person. That is what is required from you. All the other things are just cultural practices that we have clothed in Islam, and we are selling it to people. So that is a great one. And in fact, if we decide to start talking about it throughout this lecture, it's enough, because it's a lot of harm. And it's causing a lot of harm to people. You will see that people, after doing the burial, slaughtering malu, then they will not be paying debts for a whole year thereafter, because they want to show the society that we said is at the bottom. No, we said society should be at the bottom. Because we want the society to be happy with us, we go and incur debts to make people happy, and even make Allah not be happy with us. You know, it's a different thing if you borrow money so that Allah can be happy with you. But in this case, maybe you borrow money to go for Umrah, at least you get reward there. And you can pay the money over time. I'm not saying you should do that too. But in this case, you borrow money to make people happy, and make Allah will not be happy with you. And then you'll be paying debt thereafter. And the bad part is even that some people, even when they are alive, they couldn't have food to eat. But when they die, people will be able to get money to buy a cow, to slaughter, and feed people. When he was alive, he couldn't get anything to eat. So we need to reflect about it. We need to question this kind of practice. That is it really necessary? Is it justified? Is it right? So, and desist from it. Because it's a great example of conflict between cultural practices and religious obligation. Because what Islam has obligated you to do is just simple. Bury this man, bury this woman, continue to pray for the person. Finish. But we now had so many embellishments to it. You had a lot of enhancements. Just like some of us, when we buy a car, this one is basic car. It's not expensive. But another one, they will add a lot of things that maybe you don't even use it. Navigation, if you don't use it, they will add it to it and add additional money to it. You pay for all those things. So, but in this our own case too, Islam has said, make it simple, but we'll make it very difficult. Then I will not stop, or I will not move forward without talking about wedding. That's another big elephant in the room, as they say it. It's a big elephant in the room because the way we do our wedding today is so expensive, is so out of context of what Islam requires from you. And what I've seen is that when you are interacting with a lot of young people, it's making people to go towards what Allah said is haram, leaving what Allah said we should do is halal. Because our wedding today is very expensive, so when young people attend such wedding, they will start calculating how much it is to rent the hall. Maybe it's 2 million naira. They will calculate how much it is to maybe get the chairs, the table, all those things. Another maybe 1 million, 2 million naira. By the time they do the calculation, we are talking about 10 million already. And the man, his salary is 100,000 naira. So how will you expect that person to even think about marriage? He will see marriage as a burden that I can't raise that, I can't even think about it. Because people that expect that maybe they will do it simple, people maybe they are in the same category, but when they are doing their wedding, that's the kind of wedding they do. So we also want to satisfy society and be aiming for that kind of wedding, and then you will run away from wedding. And a lot of people, that's the major reason why people are not marrying. In fact, in the Middle East, even Saudi Arabia and all those other people, they say they don't even want to marry because it's too expensive, exorbitant. Our own is even, in terms of expense, it's not as expensive as their own. But they have social security. They get money from government if you are not employed. But in our own case, we don't have such. So our wedding, we need to really look at it. Do what you can afford. We are not saying you should not publicize it, spend money on it. If you can afford it, do it. but let's not push it so much. A lot of time when you attend some of the wedding, and also the one that is even painful, if you really think about it very well as a Muslim, is that the kind of things that people do, even in the wedding. I've attended a wedding that when the groom and bride and groom are coming in, I was just asking myself, am I in the wrong place? Because the kind of music I've never heard in my life, I was hearing it blasting away there. So you start asking yourself, are we in a Muslim gathering or something else? So, and those are things we should be challenging ourselves. Because going back to what I said about burial too, marriage is simple. Some people tell you that if you make the marriage too simple, people just marry and divorce anyhow. But if it's very expensive, the man will think twice before he divorce his wife. It's a good argument, but it's not a valid argument. Because somebody can spend money to marry and divorce the wife the next day. I've seen it before. People that have a lot of money, they'll marry you. Next week, they'll divorce. If they have the money, they'll marry another person. So it's not a valid reason to make life difficult for people who are getting married to your child. So it's something we need to look at. We need to look at things that we do even in the marriage itself. Are they things that Islam says we should do? You will now see the Afa now who hold the hand of the bride, somewhere that is not is Mahram, and say joining the hand with the husband. Where is that one coming from? Those are cultural practices. If you go to a wedding today, Muslim wedding today, 90% of most the things that people do in those weddings are cultural things peculiar to the people that are doing the wedding. It's not Muslim marriage, but it's more of maybe Yoruba marriage, or Hausa marriage, or Fulani marriage. That is what it is. So now culture has been given precedence over what Islam has said we should do. So we need to ask that question, challenge ourselves. That do we really need to do this? Do we really need to do that? And let's try to go back to our religion. The more we go back to our religion, the more we make life easy for us. We've seen people getting married, and then they don't have food to eat the next day. That may be an exaggeration because they'll still have leftover from the food from the wedding. Maybe the next week, they are looking for what to eat again. Why not scale down on that marriage? Do what Islam has said we should do, and then maybe even give back some of my own argument is that why not give back some of the money to the bride and the groom to start their life thereafter, after the wedding, rather than spend so much and those people now come back and start struggling again. So what's the essence of the big marriage? Just one day you spend so much money, but thereafter people are struggling. So we need to really challenge ourselves, ask ourselves the tough question. Is it necessary? Is it part of our religion? Is it part of the obligation for marriage? So those are things we need to really look at very well. Have we imported our culture and claimed that they are the Islam? And that's why a lot of issues, I think I will still talk about, but let me just talk about it here. So a lot of people now, when they come into Islam, what they understand as Islam, they feel disappointed. Because when they come to Islam, what they see people doing it's just their culture. It's not Islam. When you go to different people, what you see them doing is different from Islam. What is expected is that there should be that similarity in the way we do our wedding. The same way that there's similarity in the way we worship. You can go to China tomorrow. When you enter the masjid and they are praying, you can relate with what they are doing. Because the same way I pray in Al-Usrah here, the same way they'll pray there in China. So the expectation is also that the way we do our wedding in Nigeria should be similar to the way they do their wedding in Malaysia, in Ghana. Because Islam has told you, what do you need to get married? The bride and the groom, there is the agreement between them. the wali of the woman agree that they should marry. There should be witnesses. And then, after witnesses, what else? Mar. Finish. So when you are doing your marriage in China, those are things that you see happening. We can do wolima. We can do reception for people, give people food to eat. That is allowed. There's nothing wrong in that. You can do wolima. People have come from far to come and attend this wedding because there's nothing wrong in that culture, attending the wedding. When people are doing wedding, you can travel to attend the wedding. And it will not be right. You just come to the mosque, just feed people, just say, do the nikah. Though if you do that too, there's nothing wrong with that too. You can just do the nikah, do what I just said, and people go. You can do that, there's nothing wrong with that. But there's also nothing wrong in giving people food to eat. You can do that. But when we now start adding all those additional things that are not necessary, we now make it so complex, so unnecessary. You now start wondering, what are they doing here? Is this still wedding they are doing or something else? And then we'll call all those people that call themselves, what do they call them now? Alagadru, Alagasbere. And they will start doing all manners of fasha, that's indecency in the public. That you start wondering, is this still part of nikah? No. All those ones are cultural practices that we have embedded and made compulsory that if you don't do it, you are going to die. But nothing will happen if you don't do it. So please, let's try as much as possible to simplify, make our wedding similar to what Islam has said we should do. And those are the ones that Allah will bless. Because Prophet Salam told us that marriage is half of your faith. Marriage is half of your faith. And that's the question, the thing I always ask people, that if this thing you are doing is half of your faith, how is this similar to Islam? Because if you claim that this thing you are doing is religious activity, it's not even, shouldn't even be cultural practice in the first place, it's religion, then it should be similar to how we're expected to do it, not dissimilar. So we need to really look at that very well, and then pray about my teller, make it easy for us. I also mentioned about celebration. Celebration. So celebration is cultural practice. It's a means to showcase ourselves. And it's also an avenue for us to come together. As Muslims, to come together, especially in this kind of environment where we find ourselves that there are not so many Muslims around. So those celebrations are means for us to come together, to meet, to interact, because it's not just enough for us to come to Al-Usrah alone. When we are doing naming ceremony, it's also an opportunity for us to interact. When we are doing wedding, it's an opportunity for us to interact. Even burial, when somebody died, we go and condole them. It's an opportunity for us to interact with them. That's why I put this one as a top separate something. It's an opportunity for us to interact. And in that interaction, we should make it good interaction. Let's try as much as possible to avoid doing things that are not part of the religion in those celebrations. Generally, not just wedding. Let's make, when we are doing any of those celebrations now, let's challenge ourselves. Some of the things that we do in those celebrations, are they necessary? Some of the celebrations, are they even necessary? Is it part of the religion? Those are questions we should ask ourselves. Let's not be so lost in the world that people are celebrating birthday. Let me also celebrate my birthday. I need to thank Allah for making me to be 40 today. So let me express that celebration by inviting people over to come and sit down, pray for me. We are not doing anything wrong. I will not play music. Just come around, sit down, pray for me. I will serve you food, and then we'll go. It's just to gather people together. It's just a celebration. No, that one too is not part of what we're expected to celebrate. The celebration in Islam are very clear. The celebration that Islam has allowed, they are very clear. But those kind of celebration like birthday is not something we should be celebrating. You can thank Allah for making you 40 years, You can do whatever you want to on your own, but let's not start giving expression to those kind of celebration. Because other people are doing it doesn't mean you should do it. It's not part of the thing we should be celebrating. We should distance ourselves from it. It's culture too, but it's something that now, if you don't do it, you now look like somebody from the moon. This one is not, he doesn't know what's happening in town now. That's the right thing people should know. We should do those celebrations that there's nothing wrong with them, but those ones that are also not right, let's not join the bandwagon. People are doing it doesn't mean we should do it. Time already. Okay, so let me round up. They say my time is almost up. Okay, so why do we have those conflicts? We've accepted that there's conflicts. Everybody accepts that there's a conflict between our culture and our religious obligation. And for us to be successful, we need to keep the conflict as minimal as possible, almost eradicate them. There will always be a time when you plan things and it will not work out the way you plan. You can plan your wedding sometime and people will hijack it. Before you know it, the whole thing will scatter. You now start wondering, is it what I planned? Those kind of things can happen. So, but let's try to limit those. Let's not be the one that will be planning those things. Be asking, DJ, what kind of music are you to play for the husband and wife when they are coming in? No, let's not even talk about it at all. Some of those things, let's try as much as possible to limit it as much as possible. If it now happens, we take it, okay, that's all I wanted. But let's not be the one that will give avenue to such things. Let's try to make it as insignificant as possible. Let's try not to give it opportunity to come up. So what causes the conflict, I said, is poor understanding of Islam. Some people don't even know that those things are not right. They just feel that that's what they do, so we have to do it. This is how we'll be doing burial. We have to do it like that. But it's beyond us that know that these things are not right to be courageous and speak up and say, no, this is not part of our religion. If you claim that it's part of religion, like some people will say, where's the evidence for it? Where's the evidence for it? Because Islam has said this is how we should bury somebody. And that is the good thing about Islam. In fact, for people who have not been Muslim, maybe because most of us here were born Muslim, that's why we don't appreciate the gift of Islam. Because we've not seen what people are passing through. In fact, some people think that, those Christians, their own is better. It's not. Look at their salary, for example. When they collect their salary, 10% straight, you have to drop it. No negotiation. Prof was just telling us yesterday that there is a way where some scholars have said that if your salary is up to the nizab, you should pay zakat every month. Even if you adopt that position, that is still going to be 1/40. That is still 1/4 of what they are paying. But we tend to look at it that their own look better. No. If you see the kind of thing that they are passing through, because in the name of culture, in the name of practicing their religion, the way people bury somebody who has died, they go and keep the body first of all in mortuary for maybe months. How much are they going to pay there? Then they will now start planning for the wedding. They will spend so much money. But for us, Islam has made it simple. Ha. So our own too should be one in town. We have to do something unique. It shouldn't be just normal wedding, just dry wedding. Let's do something unique as well. That people continue to talk about it for the next 1 month, 5 years. But the truth of the matter is that as you finish that wedding, maybe next week, people don't forget the wedding. So that's the truth. Peer pressure. We have to also do the same way that every other person is doing it. Or because we invited a lot of people who are not from our religion. So we also want to showcase that Islam is also a cultural. Went for one wedding one day. It's a Muslim wedding. And I didn't go for that particular part that they did the cultural part of it. They say they brought traditional dancers, women traditional dancers, to come and be dancing in Muslim wedding. So and they were talking in the group that, it was very show, they were describing the thing was very marvelous, this and that. Maybe I don't even know what they are talking about. How can you bring women traditional dancers, you know how they would dress, to come and be entertaining guests at Muslim wedding? It just doesn't connect right. It doesn't sound right. But people do it in the name of their showcasing their culture, forgetting that in Islam is supposed to moderate the way you express your culture. So that's very, very important. And one quick thing that is very important to mention is that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ as well, the Muslims in that time, they also had their own culture. But if you look at what they were doing, you see that Islam regulated their culture to align with what Islam has brought. And I can give you examples. Aisha radiallahu anha mentioned that the marriage in pre-Islam period, the way they do their marriage is that a woman will just hang a cloth in front of her house, and any man can just come and have intercourse with her. So when she now conceive and have a child, she will now invite all the men that have relation with her and say, you are the husband. And you are the father of the child. And that's the person that will be the father of the child. Is that not their own culture? It was their culture as well. But Islam stopped it. Islam stopped it. Also, in those days, they used to have many wives, more than 4, as many as possible. But when Islam came, Islam said, no, you cannot have more than 4. Islam regulated it. So meaning that even in their own time too, they had their own culture. But Islam regulated it for them. So it's the same thing that is expected from us, that even though we also have our own culture, we're not saying culture is wrong or whatever. There are certain things that conform with Islam. Continue to practice that. It's only those ones that are wrong. They are the ones we say we should drop. Then the last reason why we have those conflicts is inability to differentiate between beneficial and harmful culture. It's still linked to knowledge. We really need to know what is Islam and stick with that one. Every other one, let's throw it away. It's that simple. Then, how do we harmonize between culture and religion? Because we have said here that there are some cultures that are allowed, are beneficial, and there are even some that even guide you in practicing your religion. And I've given an example of that. The fact that how do you define travel? It's based on what the people consider as travel in a society. So that's what will determine when you start doing your costry. That's an example. We also give an example of where the way people dress. We've talked about the fact that a man should not dress the way a woman should dress. Also, a woman should not dress the way men would dress. And we said that where the culture demand is stated that men tie wrapper or wear skirts, you won't say that man is dressing like a woman and say he's doing wrong. No, that's their own culture. It's allowed. That is okay. So we need to have better understanding of religion. This kind of discussion an opportunity for us to learn more about what is right, so that the essence of listening to those things is not just to listen to it. I went for one lecture this time, I went for another lecture that time, I went to a lecture. No, it's not about listening to it. It's about implementing what we are hearing so that we can be different from some people. Let's not be like some people that Allah described in the Quran. And it was a bad example that Allah gave. Allah said, "Masalul ladina humilu tawrata summa lam yahmiluha kamasali himaru yahmilu asfara." That the example of those who are giving the book, the example of those who are giving the knowledge, and they are knowledgeable, they know, but they do not work with the knowledge they have. They do not work with the book they have read. They do not work with all the things they've been listening to for the past 1 year, 4 years, 10 years, 20 years. Said Kamasal al-Himar. It's just an example of donkey. You know what donkey does? Donkey is the means of transportation in those days. And they will load, when the scholars are traveling from one place to the other, it's the donkey that carries the books, moving from one place to the other. Can we say the donkey is knowledgeable? It only carries the book. It doesn't read the book. It doesn't know what is in the book. And I said, it's just like that. That book that the donkey is carrying from here to here does not benefit the donkey. So let's not our case be like that. Let's try to work with what we know so that at least we can see that change in the way we do our things. People will not come to the religion and be confused that this is not the religion, the Islam that I heard. This one is just like what we used to do now. So what is different? Why should I continue to be a Muslim? Let's be an example of people that when people will say, oh, at least this person is trying. It may not be perfect. We are not perfect. Nobody is perfect. Everybody will make mistakes. And we are not perfect. But let's make efforts to even try to do it right. And then pray that Allah will reward us for doing it right. Let's be a sample that will show the light to people of how things should be done right. And then the other thing that will help us in this journey is willingness to be different. You should not be afraid to be different from other people, because we are not the same thing now. In fact, some scholars will say that if you look at the Quran, when Allah is talking about good things, about people doing good things, He will say, وَقَلِيلٌ مِنْ عِبَادِنَا صَالِحِينَ. That but only a few of my slaves are righteous. Allah, when He's talking about people that follow Prophet Nuh, after preaching for 950 years, how many are they? They say they are not even up to 100. Can you imagine somebody talking for 950 years? You know the number of people that you have talked to? Only less than 100 of them accept the message. So don't be afraid to be different from other people. Challenge the status quo. We don't have to continue doing it the way every other person is doing it. Let's challenge the status quo. Let's not be afraid to be. In fact, even some of the people, when they are advertising, they will say, be different. So why should you as a Muslim not be afraid to be different from? Let people that are not Muslim come for your wedding and say, why is your own wedding like this? Say, this is how Islam says we should do it. So that they can learn about Islam. And you can be shocked. You'll be shocked that some people are looking for something different from what they are used to. They want a life that will be easy for them. They want a life that they don't have to be thinking for 5 months to bury their father that died. They want to be able to do their marriage without breaking the bank, as people will say. You don't have to break the bank to do wedding. You can spend money. We are not saying we should not spend money for a wedding, but it shouldn't be that you finish the wedding and you start saying, I wish you would not even spend all this money. Because some people will even come for that wedding. They may not even get food. In spite of all the money you have spent, and they will start saying, this is your wedding. It's rubbish wedding, So why not just do something simple and try to feed everybody so that everybody will be happy when they come. At least they get food to eat. Then I said we should be courageous to challenge the societal norms. those things we say is the norm, is the way it's done, the way it has always been done. It doesn't have to always be done that way. Some people instituted that thing. And sometimes you don't even know why some people started some things, but you are just doing it. There's a story that is very popular that there is a barrack, a military barrack, where there is 2 military officers. They're always standing at the gate. So they've always been there, maybe for 10 years. So a new commandant came and was asking, why are these 2 people standing there? And people started asking them, why are they standing there? Nobody knew why they were standing there. And then eventually, when they now find out, they now trace the record. They now said that some 10 years back, there's a plague that was done. You know those things that they do with concrete, that they write something on it. So when they place it the first day, when they cast it, it was not yet dry. So an animal now stamp on it and then make a mark on it. So because of that, the commandant that was there now said 2 military officers should stand there until that thing dry. That's how those military officers were always standing there. And then it's like the thing has not dried before they moved that commander away, and that person came. So he saw people standing there. He continued to ask them to stand there. And that's how people were standing for 10 years. So if you ask some of the things we do at our wedding or even burial, why are we doing Alagaduro will start talking? Why are we doing it? Does it add any value to the wedding? Because we have done introduction. And that introduction, all the family members that are important to the wedding, they were there. So why do we need to now, in the name of culture, now call people, and then the man or woman will start doing anyhow? So please, let's try to think about it. Pray Almighty Allah make it easy for us. So inshallah, I will try to stop now. We've talked so much. I was thinking that we're just going to talk for like 45 minutes. But Ustaz didn't tell me the time. And then I kept on talking. So pray that may Allah make what I've said beneficial to myself first and foremost, because a lot of times we talk, but we don't do what we say. That is the tragedy of our time now. People say a lot, but they don't do. So pray that Allah make what I've said beneficial to myself and to all my listeners. All the mistakes that I've made. You know, I said at the beginning that I'm not a notable Imam, like our uncle said. I'm just a student that I'm trying to answer the call that I've been asked to come and talk to ourselves. So I'm just making efforts. So I'm sure I've made a lot of mistakes. So please forgive my mistake I've made. And I pray at moment Allah forgive the errors that I've committed during the discussion. Pray at moment Allah make what we have said beneficial to each and every one of us and make it easy for us to implement what we have heard and overlook our shortcomings. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر الله لي ولكم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. Takbir. Yes, we have had for a genius student who came here to even teach his the well-known professors. Yes, you were a student. I remember when we were young, we used to correct some of our teachers. Hey, you make mistake there. What we had today, we realized that today it's better to even be bringing more students here. Because I try to study the audience. Sometimes when those people are talking, some of us will be nodding our head. Even as mothers, there was no gist going on around with them. That shows that it's even better to invite students. Thank you for being a good student. We always welcome you. We've had details. It's a process. It was started last week. We are taking it gradually so that at the end of the process, all of us will get details of what we are doing. We give chance for questions without wasting much of our time, because we know there are some questions. Some of us are even shaking our head.